The Attorney General is a racist, Letitia James. You borrow money, you pay it back, and you get sued by a political animal. The fascist and racist Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James. We have a racist Attorney General who's a horror show.
Oh, that's just some of the language, and not even the worst that Trump used in going after the prosecutor who proved to be quite adept at holding him accountable, New York Attorney General Letitia James. She brought and won a civil fraud lawsuit against Trump, who was found liable for business fraud. It came with a penalty to the tune of $464 million, which is still accruing interest. And now this is how Trump's allies have reacted to Vice President Kamala Harris, both leading up to and following her becoming the new de facto Democratic nominee for president.
Are you suggesting she was a DEI hire?
100%. She was a DEI hire.
She does not speak well. She does not work hard.
She's a DEI hire, right? She's a woman. She's colored. Therefore, she's got to be good.
A lot of Democrats feel they have to stick with her because of her ethnic background.
I wonder what these two women have in common. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. Anyway, New York Attorney General Letitia James joins me now. I don't know. I'm going to think about it throughout this segment. And if you can think of what these ladies have in common, with the VP. Anyhow, what do you make of the way that Republicans have followed Donald Trump's lead in just the tone of their attacks, not just on you, but also on the vice president?
They're running very scared. That's what I think. They're running very scared, and they have nothing else other than racism and sexism. And so when you have nothing else, unfortunately, you just appeal to the racists among us, the white nationalists among us. That's all. The reality is that Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, is qualified. Oftentimes she's, underestimated, but she's an overachiever. And that's why I have wholeheartedly endorsed her. And it's unfortunate that individuals are just amplifying racism and sexism, and it's totally inappropriate, and I will not dignify it with a response.
Indeed. And DEI is actually a good thing, whether it is DEI in its original form or duly elected official, which you are, Madame. And you've been a very successful statewide elected official. I mean, I think people need to understand being an attorney general means you were elected statewide, as was Vice President Harris when she was an attorney general. What unique skill sets does that bring in terms of holding Donald Trump accountable, both the way that you've done it in court, but then on the campaign trail? What do you expect to see in terms of the messaging about that?
So it's critically important. Oftentimes, attorney generals just don't get the attention that they deserve. And it's important that individuals understand, as we analyze Project 2025, we've been here before. 4 years ago, when the former president was in charge, we had the New York State Attorney General, my office, we filed over 100 cases against Donald Trump. We were successful 80% of the time. And so his playbook, Project 2025, is something that we are familiar with. And so when individuals want to distance themselves from Project 2025, do not believe them, because, in fact, 4 years ago, they litigated a lot of the same claims, and they're coming back. It's important also to understand that Vice President Harris, when she was the Attorney General, was responsible for going after banks who were responsible for the foreclosure crisis. She defended the Affordable Care Act. She went after major corporations that engaged in deceptive business practices. She went after those individuals who abused the law, both as it relates to women who engaged in sexual abuse of women. She went after individuals, again, who violated the criminal code, the civil code. She is overqualified to be president of these United States. She sat in the United States Senate on the Intelligence and Homeland Security. She's traveled the globe. She is a woman who has the receipts, has been in the best position to go after Donald Trump and to defend the values that we hold so dear. Most importantly, reproductive rights. She's been a champion on reproductive rights. And as someone who just visited Texas and who listened to the women in Texas, it's unfortunate that the only way that some women in Texas can get health care is to bleed out in their bathrooms. It's totally unacceptable, and women should really rise up against this effort to really control our bodies. It's our bodies and our choice, and no one knows it better than Vice President Harris.
Let me play Vice President Harris. This was her yesterday about knowing Trump's type.
Before I was elected as vice president, before I was elected as United States Senator, I was the elected Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of California. And before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor. In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
As do you, Madam Attorney General. And we know that in addition to the E. Jean Carroll settlement for sexually abusing her, the judge said raped her and doing what he said he could grab in real life. There was, of course, your case in terms of civil fraud, almost $500 million, which the Donald Trump team is appealing. But there's more. Tell us more about what you've known as somebody who has prosecuted this man. I mean, there was also his fake university, his charities.
Yes. But I also know I've spoken to some individuals who used to live in some of his buildings in Brooklyn, who he and his father discriminated against because they were African American. And those individuals tell me the types of tactics that they engaged in. And so it's really critically important that individuals understand the character and the type of individual that Donald Trump represents. And the fact is that he is a no respecter of title and is an individual who will stoop to certain lows, obviously, to achieve his objective. It's really all about Donald Trump and no one else. He's not concerned about the rule of law, not concerned about the interest of working class people in this country, not concerned about uniting us. It's all about how he can benefit himself and his family. And that's why all of us must march to the polls in quiet dignity and vote, because there's so much at stake. It's really critically important that individuals understand that he represents an existential threat to all that we believe in, all of our rights, all of our privileges, and all of our freedoms. And that's why we must stand together and elect Vice President Harris.